Hello, hello. A little bit late getting started today because we had some family visiting, and I've realised I've got the wrong webcam on, so let me just sort that out. Normally I'd set all this stuff up beforehand. Just got a little bit delayed today. With family coming up from London, and it was all they got delayed and all that kind of stuff. So, hey Bishop. So same setup as usual. So if you've got any questions, just drop them in any of the chats. I've got team chat, although obviously the vast majority of people don't have access to that. I've got the Discord up, and I've got the YouTube chat up as well. Plans for today are, I've got a punch list of some of the assets that I need to work on and check that I've got. As per usual, I can't really sort of show you the dev screen stuff. I've just got to be careful with some of the things that I show you, because there are some proprietary tooling that we don't want to show people how we're doing stuff. Yeah, we're quite open with the project overall, but some things we're keeping to ourselves. There's also some tooling in there that we are hoping to apply for Catalyst funding for before we open source it, and we don't want to be giving too much away about that. And there is also some tooling in there that is related to some other funding potentially in the future. So that's why we're a bit cagey about showing the dev screens and code screens and all that kind of stuff. It's not because we're terrible coders, obviously. I speak for myself. You know. Adam needs to review all my code actually, and he'll tell me that everything needs to be optimized. My stuff is like terribly inefficient most of the time. But yeah, I've posted a few. Hi, Kristen. I've been posting quite a few updates this week around the small testing area that we're creating for Nook. So for those of you who don't know, the game world of Knitties is currently called Knitty Nook, and that's based on a project that I started about 10 years ago, which is called Nary a Nook. Nary is, I guess, like Old English for hardly or rarely or never. And the idea was like an environment that was on a macro scale, and it was about navigating real world events at a macro scale. And it was inspired in part by an old game. I think it was on the GameCube. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, Space Lady. Okay, yeah, I know who you are now. I can't remember what it's called. I think it was like something Dangerous Creatures or something. And it was like this whole there was this whole scenario in the real world going on, and I think it was this big drug deal type thing within the game. But you actually played the part of like a tarantula and a scorpion or something, and this real story was going on in the world around you, but you were navigating that story world as one of these like small, not insect. Well, yeah, you know what I mean. And yeah, so Nary and Nook was like a little bit about that, and Knitties kind of is a natural progression of that. So there's a lot of that work, or a lot of that idea coming into Knitties. And of course, there's lots of parallels with other story worlds as well. If you look at Lego the movie, and Lego in general is a perfect example of this type of thing, where you've got the real world that is around Lego, the interactions with Lego. And Knitties is very much like that. And so for our testing area, for our alpha, what we needed to do was create an area where we could test out lots of mechanics, but also give people a kind of feel and a visual language for how Knitty Nook will be. And that's what you see in front of you now. It's a crafting desk, which is where our Knitties experiments are going to happen for the next few alphas. So this is the environment you'll just be jumping around in and playing around in the future. This is all like pre-alpha essentially, so the UI systems, they're not going to look like this in the final output, but for now this is the most time efficient way of working. So these UI systems will be different in the future. Right, so I've got to get my controller linked up, and we'll take a look at where we're at with things. And again, if you've got any questions, then just drop them in any of the chat windows. I've made the mistake of not bringing a drink up with me, so I might need to go and get one in a minute. Okay, so where are we at with things? Let's load up Unity. Unity's already open, but let's start playing. So what you see in the game world, and let me know if this music is too loud, because it was too loud last week. It's actually really loud for me. In fact, I'm going to mute it for now so that I can talk over it. But everything that you see here, it's just there. Everything here is there for a reason, and it's not necessarily that it's going to be in there in the final thing or anything like that. It's just there as a reason to, or it's there to test a specific thing. So, for example, this area of these drawers is actually here to test a very specific thing, a very specific phenomenon, issue that you have with modular games, and that is that each of these sets of drawers has got a collider on it, and colliders are what help us to facilitate physical interactions within the virtual world. So this Knitty knows the engine knows where the Knitty's feet are on top of an object, because there's this thing called a collider which is around it, and things collide with colliders. Right? Things called rigid bodies, physical objects that respond to physical phenomena, will interact with colliders. Colliders are not necessarily rigid bodies, because these drawers won't blow away in the wind, but the Knitty might, because the Knitty is a rigid body. The rigid bodies are affected by forces. This example here, the cloud, is a rigid body, but it also has a collider on it. So we know which part of the cloud we hit when we jump into it, okay? Which is why it spins around in a specific direction if you hit it on one side versus the other. The drawers don't do that. The drawers are just colliders, and one of the issues that you often run into is where you've got nested colliders. And in this example, each of these drawers, like the chest has got a collider on it, and then each of the drawers has got a collider on it, so that I can create like a set of steps where the Knitty can kind of go up potentially in the future. Again, this is all like subject to This is just for testing purposes. But when you've got colliders quite close to one another, sometimes you get little glitches. And Knitty Nook is at real world scale. So that what that means is these knitties are less than 15 centimeters tall, right? Now, game engines generally are not designed to have optimal physics at that kind of size, like, because it's rare that you would play a game where you're actually working at real world scale with small characters. Even something like Little Big Planet, they will probably be using a human world scale, or at least they will be sizing up their Little Big Planet characters to human scale, because that's the way that most physics work in game engines. Now, in theory, it shouldn't matter, but it does matter, because getting the specificity of interaction between different objects at this scale, game engines, you don't normally have that specificity of interaction at these sizes. Therefore, what that means is when an object is, or a marble, for example, if it was dropping down these, if it's dropping over these drawers, generally what we would probably do is just have one collider for the full set of drawers, because they're on a desk somewhere and we're the size of a person, and we can't really make out all that much detail when we're kind of quite far away from them. But at this scale, we're very close to them, and therefore that marble needs to be able to interact accurately and correctly at this scale. And so basically, small things in a game engine that is designed to run with big things work best if the small things are scaled up to be the same size as the big things. With Knitty Nook, that's not happening. We're doing everything at real world scale, and there's a reason for that. Partly it's to do with optimal workflows, partly it's to do with, I love the challenge of trying to get this stuff working, and partly it's because of some stuff that we really want to pull in later on. So I'm not going to go into that. That's a long way down the line. So yeah, that's what this test environment is basically set up for. It's just to help us test things. And it's a small little environment. It's going to be a lot bigger than this. Well, I say a lot bigger. It's going to have lots more going on than this. This is all that we're showing at the moment. This is all that there is actually there at the moment. But there's a whole level diagram that has been drawn out, and I'm adding to it as we go. Like, the other day, I thought, wouldn't it be great if we got some little mini games in there to test some of our multiplayer development work that we're going to be working on soon. And I just thought, let's have like a mini golf thing. So that's what some of the latest videos are for online. So the mini golf thing, obviously this character's carrying around a golf club. This is something that I need to work on so that you can pick up different accessories and play with them. At the moment, we've only got a golf club, so that's what he's holding. And let's just take a look at what we're up to. So I can switch between different knitties in the wallet. Okay, so there's 10 knitties in here. You can see not all of the accessories are made yet. So this one here, these are just S1s. So this is what S1s are going to look like when you bring them in. So they've all been brought up to the same standard as the S2s. And some of the hoodies are a bit of a different layout, because some of them you're using an older hoodie model and some of them are using a newer hoodie model. So I've got to sort all of those out. But what's going to happen is at the moment, the hat is going to match the colour of the shoes, the high tops. The high tops are like the standard shoes. There are obviously other shoes that you can get, like you've got space boots, you've got pirate shoes and all that kind of stuff, but those are all things that will come in later on. And the hoodie is going to match the shorts, but it's not going to match exactly. So what I'll do quickly is let's just pick one. See if I've got one with a green hoodie. And then I can select green shorts, see what it looks like. So they'll be slightly off. Like it won't be exactly the same colour. So you get this kind of variation of colour on the Knitty. We've discussed perhaps having the hat match the shorts and the hoodie match the shoes, potentially. Hey, Rowdy. But this is a decision we don't have to make it now. You know, these kind of decisions are quite trivial once we have all the assets. It's literally like we can flick a switch, you know, and it can match to the shorts to the hat, or the shoes to the hat. It's really quite a trivial thing. It's like not even worth thinking about. It's not a technical overhead really at all. It's more of an art asset overhead. I think there's like a few more hat colours than there are S1 hoodie colours. Yeah, there are, aren't there? So you've got you've got all the different types of hat as well. You've got the, let's see, you've got desert, outrun, urban. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 different hats in season 1. Of course, most of those are the core set, but some of those are the ones that you only see like once, right? It's pretty crazy, like the technical overhead, the art overhead for just one thing that one person is ever going to see, unless you're doing like a cooperative type thing. And then you got the torsos where there's fewer torsos, like 3 fewer torsos, I think, or maybe 2 fewer torsos. So technically, whatever the cap matches up to, or the hat matches up to, then you need more of the, like, if it matches up to the shorts, then you need more shorts than you would if the shorts matched up to the torso. But it's only like 2 things, so it doesn't really make any difference. Okay. So if you're just pulling in, then just any questions or anything you'd like to ask me about anything really. It doesn't have to be about Knitties. You can ask me anything. Just drop it in any of the chat windows, Discord or YouTube. That's fine. So yeah, this is kind of where we're up to, and we've got the randomize function as well. This is probably something I'm going to keep. This is just for testing right now, and it might be in the alpha as well. But you know, once you've selected your S1, oh, there's a good one. Look, that orange and is it? Oh, gone past it. Sometimes you find S1s and you go, oh, that looks really nice. You know, I didn't know that combination was one that I wanted. That's really cool because now you've got them that color on the feet. It brings a whole new dimension to them. Like there's just a lot more consistency across the design. There's less clashes. It just makes everything, joins everything up a lot more. You can see currently with the Knitties that I've got in this wallet and the S2 Knitties in this wallet, actually it's not looking in the wallet for the S2s. It's just made all of the S2 assets available to me at this time. So with those 10 Knitties and this and all of the S2 assets that I've currently got in, there is 808. Oh goodness, I can't. I'm so tired. 806,400. What? 806,400. Oh my goodness, my brain is not working. 806,400 different combinations just based on that. That's actually going to be the same every time I hit play at the moment. Every time I play this at the moment. Just because all of the S2s are available and I'm only pulling in a random 10 S1 Knitties each time from this wallet. But I can hit random and it's going to keep my S1 Knitty, but it's going to pick assets that can go onto it from my S2s. So what this means is basically every S1 asset on this Knitty is probably going to disappear. Like the probability is that it's all going to disappear. So yeah, there we go. So the only thing that was kept was the yarn colour. How cool is that though? How cool is that? It looks awesome, doesn't it? I cannot wait until we've got multiple players on the same screen. I'm being sort of hesitant about how I say it, but multiple people on the same screen, jumping around, smashing each other with mallets and stuff. Trying to collect things before the other people collect them. Opening doors for each other, that sort of like those kind of gameplay mechanics. I'm really looking forward to that. And of course playing golf with one another, because that's what we're doing now, right? Is we're playing golf. We're having mini golf games now. So there we go. So we're going to be doing like I'm creating a system where we can basically any screen or any particular area, it will hopefully procedurally generate a mini golf course on there for anyone to take part in who is in that lobby, I guess. And yeah, there's some quite interesting mechanics around that. Like, could you have a system where eventually the players within the lobby can vote for, Rowdy wants to play mini golf, who wants to come and play mini golf? And you go to the mini golf tee point, you got 30 seconds to get to the tee off point, and then all the people who are in the tee off point can play in the mini golf tournament, but at the moment we can like do this anywhere we want. The animation at the moment is not tied into the location of the ball, so I could just do this here, right? And this ball's going to go flying. It'll go in the right direction, but what I've got to do is I've got to have a lock-on point for the Knitty, right? That's something I'm going to be doing. I was thinking about how best to control, how to give players like a bit of feedback about where the ball's going to go. So the idea is that, oh hang on, let's do this one up here because this is quite fun. We should be able to make it hit the cloud. There we go. So again, Knitties like this whole like physical thing, like there's physics all integrated, so it's quite fun. That's the idea anyway, so it'll be quite fun. And so you put the ball down, and this the same will be true of other things, other setups we do. Like if we ever did Knitty football, for example, then you're going to approach it. You're going to hold down your contextual button, which on the controller will probably be the left trigger, and then you'll push the action button when you're ready, right? So how does that experience manifest? Like what happens when we create that kind of setup? So the first thing is that when I hold down the trigger, what I want to do is I only want the contextually specific action to occur when I'm close to an object that I can contextually interact with. So once I'm within the region of the golf ball, I hold down the trigger, and even if I'm a little bit further away from it, it will sort of drag me towards the ball, it will snap me onto the ball. And then what I want to be able to do is rotate around the ball so that I can aim it. I want to see a rough indicator, like an arrow pointing in the direction that the ball's going to go in, something like that. And then the longer I hold the action button down for, the further the ball will go. And it might be a mini golf. You can pick between like 3 different clubs, right? A driver, a chip, and a putter, something like that. So like the driver will go like long and low. Chip will, what we're doing at the moment is basically a chip, right? The animations at the moment are all motion capture. They're not the final animations. I'm using them as placeholders, and this last one just lasts way too long, right? Boof. So that's definitely more like a chip, right? Maybe it needs to go a bit further, but our play area at the moment is quite low. And I think what I'd also need to do is pull the camera away as well. Yeah, so you can kind of see where it's going. But I kind of like how ridiculously, how pathetic the ball movement is. It's very Knitties like, right? It's quite clumsy. I'm a little bit away from the ball here. There we go. Let's see if I can, yesterday I managed to get it like in between the hole and the tape. So the idea is eventually maybe what will happen is you create a mini golf, and then it's going to drop the flag somewhere, like random, on the map. Okay, the ball's behind there. It doesn't matter. We can just spawn a new one. So yeah, we figured this would be quite fun, you know. And a really great way to play around with some more complicated multiplayer networking type stuff that we want to integrate. So this isn't going to be for right away. This is going to be, we're going to implement the alpha, which is going to be testing Knitty customization, all that kind of stuff. And some of this stuff will be in there. But then we're going to start looking at multiplayer in the new year. Really hoping that the alpha can come out before New Year, the first alpha, just so we can get some feedback on wallets and control systems, and then we can rapidly iterate, because we're using WebGL now, we can rapidly iterate on the control system. So if we're getting feedback like it doesn't work well with mouse and keyboard for whatever reason, we can change that. We really want to get it working on tablet. That's a bit more complicated, but we'll endeavour to do that. Target audience for Knitties. So yeah, this is an interesting one, because obviously all the people, the majority of the people who interact with the Knitties NFT ecosystem would be over a certain age in theory, because, you know, to commit to run transactions and all that sort of stuff, there are, you know, legal requirements for that. But obviously some people have bought their children Knitties and they're stored in their wallets and all that kind of stuff. I think that our target age range sort of begins, you know, sort of like around the 10 mark. But it's more about, rather than targeting an age group now for games, and you know, I work in the sector and I teach in the sector as well. It's sometimes more useful instead to think about what devices do you want to target, like basically how big do you want your audience to be, because if you want the biggest audience, then you need to target mobile devices, right? Who plays on mobile devices and how long do they play for? Right, those are really the important questions. So it's very easy to identify a demographic of some kind, where you say, right, you know, 10 to 20-year-olds who are on mobile devices, but it's not really that simple anymore. The modern gamer, the modern games market is incredibly diverse. And as we know through Knitties, our audience is incredibly diverse. There are some people who don't enjoy playing action type games. There are some people who love playing action type games. There are people who are pensioners, and there are children who want to see Sparrow every morning, right? In their living room or as they're eating breakfast. So it's an incredibly diverse community. It's one of the things that we're most proud of, really, is how diverse Knitties have been. And part of that is because we've had this approach where we want everything to be soft and kind looking, and we've had a few nods to other things. Alex Maloko was one of those. But they're done in such a way that they're not overtly like aggressive and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek take on things. So I think in terms of audience, I would think about it rather than saying like, you know, our demographic is this age range, this type of person, and you know, we do personas sometimes when we're trying to identify a demographic. I think if we're doing a persona, we'd be identifying the person plays for 20 minutes at a time, you know, 20-minute play session, or 20 to 60 minute play sessions is what we'd like to accommodate, and we would be open to delivery on, well, basically, essentially we're delivering on WebGL, so anything that can handle WebGL, essentially, so hopefully mobile devices as well. So then what age range fits into that particular gameplay arrangement, and it will just be like everyone fits into that arrangement. So but certainly there is a visual style, isn't there, that we're going for, that is of a particular type. But then there's themes in Knitties that are, no, they're complex themes, right? Yeah, so I definitely need to shorten this animation because it's a bit annoying having to wait for it to play. So maybe I can shorten that in a second, actually. But again, it is motion capture, so that's why the golf club goes through the Knitties head and all that kind of stuff, because it's been designed for, the motion capture is done off a human proportion, and Knitties need to have their own animation, right? We don't want to be using mocap for the standard Knitties animations. The first alpha that we did, goodness, over a year ago, right? For those of you who remember, like that alpha was incredible in what we achieved back then, in terms of reading data from a wallet back in, was it August? I think it was August or late July, from multiple projects. And having like the game change according to what policies you had in and all that kind of stuff. It was just amazing. It's amazing how far we've come though. But that people said like the animation was really cool, because like seeing the Knitties run around, they had like a really silly, like goofy run and all that kind of stuff. These are all these animations are actual mocap animations, right? So they kind of work, but when you actually look closely, there are some specificity issues. There's a lot of clipping. Ignore the skinning. The skinning is the way that the 3D model moves with the joints. So you will see, let's try it here. The hoodie isn't too bad. You can see like on the corners of the hoodie, it sort of clicks upwards, it snaps upwards at some point. Let's try and do that again. It's not perfect, but that's not something to worry about, because although there are like 30, 40 different hoodie designs or torso designs, I just need to re-rig like one or two of them, and every single one of those will be done, right? So the way that we're working is very, very efficient. It's hyper optimized in terms of the art workflow. So yeah, there's nothing to really worry about with that. That stuff can happen later. That kind of stuff, I think I pointed out several times on tweets, it's not worth the time investment at this stage. We do that later. Finesse comes later, right? We have a lovely word in the UK and probably elsewhere as well, and it's to do with ceramics, and it's fettle or fettling, right? That's just fettle. I think that's how you spell it. Fettle. And it's the thing that you do at the end of making your pot, right? You make your pot, and then you go over it normally with some kind of like not blade, but like a palette knife or that sort of thing, and you remove any seam lines, you chamfer the corners, you refine, you finesse the form, but you can only do it once you've made the pot, right? There's no point fettling a ball of clay. You've got to make the pot first. So we're making the pot right now, you know, and we fettle it later. So yeah, that's kind of where we're up to with things. And yeah, there are issues, like there's little glitches you can make happen. There we go, look, there's one there. And this is to do with colliders and rigid bodies and physics interactions and all that kind of stuff. And these are just little things, these happen all the time in games. You know, you just got to like play around and figure out if there's a way that you can resolve these. Eventually what we're going to be doing is there will be very specific areas in Knitty Nook that are like this, because the world of Knitty Nook takes place within the real world, right? It's like escapism within the imagination of someone in the real world, and that's very much how Knitty Nook is that's how it kind of exists. the story world and such. It's like in our imaginations and stuff. So, and I've kind of lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so there'll be some specific areas like this, but there'll be other areas that are generated, like procedurally generated as well. So, and Adam and I think did we show this? I think we showed this. The infinite world generator that we just built in a couple of evenings, where it just generates an infinite world. Like, it was basically just generated Knitty Minecraft essentially. Like, that's what we built. That isn't going to be Knitties in Knitty Nook. It's beyond the scope of what we're trying to achieve. Well, it's not beyond the scope. It's not within the scope of what we're trying to achieve. We're just something a bit more experiential. But that's kind of generative procedural game creation that is used in roguelikes. Roguelike is a very good way to describe some of the sections of Knitties. So you may well have these specific areas like this. And I think that this probably will end up being a specific area in Knitty Nook. Right now, it's just here as a homage to our influences. Smash. Where's that link actually? Because I want to put that out there, because Ikea posted the link. So I was up several months ago. I was up in Loft, and I've got a fairly extensive computer game collection, and I was in the Loft and I was looking through my N64 stuff, and you've got these memories. We're actually talking about this over in Discord right now. You got these memories of those old games you play. Here's one I'm going to be replaying over Christmas, right? So Tomb Raider. You have these memories of these things, like from when you were younger. And they're never quite as good when you play them again. And I was looking at my N64 stuff, and I was like, I really want to play an N64 game, but then I was like, is it going to ruin my memory of it? And I've got they're all boxed up in like plastic boxes, so to keep the cardboard boxes for the N64 cartridges in pristine condition. And I was looking at Smash, and I thought that's really interesting, because I was playing it and I'm remembering the opening scene for Smash, and the opening, like the intro sequence, and then I thought, that would be a really great starting area for Nook, because that's when Smash starts. Smash starts on a desktop, and you've got like all these pens and paper like all collecting themselves on the desktop. And I thought that'd be a really great place for Knitties to start. And then I've got Super Bomberman, but believe it or not, I've never ever played Super Bomberman. I've not played Bomberman, not played any of that IP. And then I was thinking, I remember some shots from one of our key influences, which is Yoshi's Crafted World. And I wonder if I can load some of those up. Let me have a look, see what I've got on here. And then I was like, these are too good. Let's do some homage. Let's do a tribute here to some of these worlds. And yeah, I'm not on my other screen at the moment. I'm trying to find where these screenshots are saved, and I don't seem to be able to find any of them. Bear with me a second, because I'd like to put them up there just so that people kind of know where we are. Get that kind of cultural reference, I suppose. I think it's quite important. They're definitely in Discord. So, hang on, maybe if I just search for Smash. So, Smash is definitely a key influence, and I think with our multiplayer stuff, we're definitely going to be sort of taking some cues from these games. And there it is, found it. Okay, so if I go back there, and then do this. Right, so this is the Knitty Smash intro. I'll drop it in the YouTube chat. And this was located by IKEA. And this is go, I need to actually lost my chat now. That's no good, is it? So I can get my chat back. How do I get my chat back? View. Yeah, I don't know how I get my chat back now. That's annoying. Chat. Yes, got it back. Okay, so that'll probably take you out of the stream if you click on that, won't it? But if I just try and load it up in a different window, maybe. So rubbish at streaming, aren't I? I'm just terrible. There we go. Let's load that up and let's put it on the other screen. So you can see here, this is the start of Smash on N64. And I like the spotlight, but that's maybe a little bit. So here we go. We've got the books in the background. We've got a window, which we don't have yet. We've got a notice board. We've got, looks like tissues, a pen pot, a desk lamp. You see, like the desk is there. That's where we are, right? That's where Nick is starting. And we kind of wanted to put these visual cues in there to kind of give people a clue about the sort of thing that we're hopefully going to be aiming for, right? Or that we are aiming for and hoping to achieve with Nitty Nook. And I've talked about it quite a lot on Discord, on Twitter as well. I keep hinting at, wouldn't it be great if there was a Smash game, a Smash-like game that pulled in from all these other projects, you know? And there we go, the desktop turns into this really cool play environment. The people who are Knitties fans and been here a long time know that there's no accidents, right, in Knitties. You know, everything's thought about at great length. There's meta within meta, you know. And so this is like an example of that, I think. And then we've got, here we go, this one's brilliant. I love this picture because Smash got me there, but this picture tipped me over the edge when I remembered some of the stop motion stuff that came out with Yoshi's Crafted World. Now these are really low resolution images. Look at this. This is basically where I went with it. So we go, Smash gets us that initial idea, and then it's like, oh, hang on, that's a bit like this thing. You look into that thing and you go, oh, that's, you know, because Yoshi is one of our main influences, and we've talked quite a lot about that. I've even got all of the woolly Yoshis. We've had a look at those, and this is Nook, right? Well, we've got a notice board in there. We've got the books. I even put them in the same order of color, even though these books aren't going to be this color. But you've got the different tape here, the different washi tapes here. It's a little bit more out of focus here on this one, but we've got the I even put, look at this, red pin and white pin. That's all there. It's all like, you know, deliberately there. So obviously it's going to change. This is just homage. So we will go our own way eventually, but this is just, I just thought it'd be a really nice thing, and for people to be able to pick up on all of those cues. I was hoping that people would be able to pick up on all those cues anyway. But look how colourful and saturated this is, but at the same time it's quite soft. And yeah, I feel like we're getting kind of there with Knitties. There's some technical art stuff to do yet, and the yarn I would like to get working slightly differently. I'd like it to get a bit softer, but I think what I'm going to have to do is, rather than do yarn procedurally, if I want to achieve the softer look, I'm going to have to do some scanning. Like, I'm going to have to do some technical material scanning to get all of the maps that I want to achieve. And that's kind of softness. It's quite hard to achieve mathematically, and these are all procedural materials. So let's just go into 4K. And zoom in. So there's quite a lot of detail in them, but the problem is with procedurals, they often look quite hard and plasticky almost, you know, and I think that's an issue that we're getting here. So I'd like to try and resolve that, attempt to resolve that. So I'm actually getting my 3D scanning set up. Like I've refined it a little bit, and I was sent this the other week. This is I've used these before for photogrammetry out on the mountains, right? But this is my own, and these are quite expensive actually. This is all it is. Okay, it's a color checker, and what you do is when you're scanning an object, and by scanning I don't mean literally sticking it on a scanner. I don't mean taking a picture of it. I mean taking 30 studio controlled pictures of some yarn, and then running them through a program that will color correct everything. And these colors, you can't touch them with your fingers because they're actual specific pigments, right? And if you touch them with your fingers, the oils ruin them. Oils in your fingers ruin them. What you do is you take one picture in your lighting environment with this, and it will correct everything so that it is real world color, like objectively colored. Okay, it's basically like doing a white balance, right? Except that's the digital equivalent, I guess. And that is called a color checker passport, if anyone's ever interested in getting one. They're probably about, I don't know, maybe about like 100 quid or something. I can't remember exactly. And you'll get a little a LUT, or a lookup table, LUT. Let's type that in. That's a term. So I'm treating you like I'm with my students. Explaining terminology, right? Lookup table, or a LUT. Okay. Not tool, table. Okay. So it comes with a LUT that you load into Lightroom, and it will correct all of your images. It'll color correct all your images based on that, the photo that you've taken that of in your studio setup. And then what you can do is you can take all your images of your yarn, of your real yarn, into Substance Sampler these days. Most people are using. I'm not particularly used to it. I'm used to a different system, but that's what I'm going to be using, Adobe Substance Sampler. It seems to be where everyone's moving on to at the moment, so I need to get used to that process. So I'm going to get it into there, and we're going to generate some yarns that hopefully look a little bit more like this. But bear in mind that these, oh sorry, I'm on my other screen, yarns that look a little bit more like this. But these are real, like these are photographs, okay? So this happened, okay? So it's quite hard to achieve something that is this. But let's see how close we can get. I really like the softness of this, and hopefully we can get somewhere close to that with Knitties. Notice we're running at 4K right now. I'm on a HD monitor here, so you can't run it at 100% in 4K. I can shift it along to my 5K monitors, and we can run it at 100%. But if I turn on stats, I turn on my stats, we're running at some frame drops here and there. I'm streaming, right, so it's hitting the frame count quite hard, but this is like over 100 frames per second. The occasional drop, but I've got a lot of software running as well. So if I just stop this running and start again, let's check what the FPS is. Around the same, so hovering around 200 mark. It's going to drop off in a little bit as it realizes that it doesn't need to dedicate as much firepower to Unity in editing mode, right? So this is running in editing mode at that sort of speed at 4K. Let's pull it back to HD, and frame rate doesn't even jump that much. In fact, it's reduced now actually. There we go. Yeah, hovering around 200 mark. So that's pretty cool. Like, you know, we can run it. And it runs in WebGL at 4K as well, which is pretty cool. On my machine, it does seem to slow down a little bit on web delivery on WebGL at 4K, but HD is well smooth, and that's what most people will be playing it at, obviously. Yeah, so this is kind of where we're at the moment. So the intention for me over the coming days is to get the mini golf novelty aspect working and working completely sort of object oriented, which it is working object oriented, but I need to have it be able to apply the same mechanic to a multiplayer situation as well, and that means I have to work a little bit differently to the way that I would when I'm rapidly iterating something. So yeah, let's have a bit of a wave. And there's obviously then we're saying then that Knitties have got an inventory because they need somewhere to store the golf clubs and all that kind of stuff. So we definitely need one, right? We definitely need an inventory, and we need a way of picking from that inventory the things that we want to interact with. So yeah, that's kind of work that I need to do at the moment. Let's just shorten this animation. So let's just finish this thing playing. Boof. Okay. Oh, the pencil's not a solid object. I only just realised that. Right. So I'm just going to check out the various chats. Peepo is posting Streets of England. That's the yeah, that looks awesome. That's the picture I posted. The very famous is it Manchester picture? I think it was taken in Manchester. There's a Greggs in the back. Oh yeah, it's in the Arndale, right? So yeah, it's taken in Manchester. It's a very famous picture. I think it was last New Year a few years ago. Very famous photograph. There's like this drunk guy who's like in the middle of the road with a pint next to him. Someone's being arrested, and anyway, it's very Manchester, very UK New Year's party picture, and it's got like Streets of England. That's pretty cool. I like that. Egon is in the chat. Egon in the chat, talking about N64 Star Wars games. Running an emulator on a Raspberry Pi, frame rate is okay. I do have a Raspberry Pi running, I can't remember what it's called. It's the one with all of the emulators on it, and it's great. But there's something to be said when you run those older games on CRTs. Pixel art games especially, actually, but they look so different on CRTs. Like when you run those games on newer monitors, everything just doesn't look like it used to. The CRTs had this amazing effect, this anti-aliasing, natural anti-aliasing effect, where it just blurred things together, right? And there's no finer example of that than pixel art. Pixel art looks so different. Like what we call pixel art now is completely different to what pixel art was when it was designed for CRTs. Like the pixel artists who worked with CRTs were magicians, absolute magicians. So I'm going to load up my Twitter account. And let's see if I can find, there was, I think I retweeted it a couple of days ago. So I'm just going to see if I can find it. There was a really great example from a game which kind of illustrated exactly what pixel art is supposed to be. You know, I can't find it, so let's have a quick look in my tweets and replies. Oh, here we go. Tom Waterhouse. Okay, so let's move this over. Okay, so on the right hand side is the pixel art that you'd see like through an emulator on on a flat screen, or a TFT, or whatever we call them nowadays. And then on the left hand side is the CRT version. That's not the modern version with scanline filter. This is actually how it would look on CRT. And you can see, like, the artists back then, just with real subtle changes and shapes, they would be able to achieve forms that you can't see here. Like, this shield has a whole face on it. Those pixels are translated as a face on the shield, which is amazing. There's like so much more definition to it, given to it because of the way that CRT blends those pixels. It doesn't actually blend the pixels, it's just the way it displays them. Same here as well with this Minotaur. It's just so much more detail. So you can hear the baby crying in the background. So I think my partner's just running up the stairs. Yeah. So yeah, pixel art. Anyway, right. So where are we? Right, we're going to fix this animation actually. So let's take a look. I'm going to see if I can load my project screen up, because if I'm working on the animation, then I think that I can show, yeah, I can show that. I think I just need to hide all of that stuff there. Okay. All right, I'm just going to bring this over there and I'll just switch the screen up. If I can figure out how to do it. Yeah, it doesn't look like I can. Oh, there we go. Okay, so if I put this onto this one. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Okay. So hopefully oh no, Helen, you can't see that, can you? Oh, that is really annoying. Okay. So yeah, I'll just have to move on to the other monitor. It doesn't actually display, like, it's an issue with the displaying 5K monitors, I think. So let's just minimize this window and bring it over, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Just hide some of that. There we go. So, okay. This works. So here is the golf swing animation. I'm just going to go through some of my assets and we will pull in Infinity model. Okay, so this is from Mixamo. This is the website I was showing you last week. This is where we're getting our test stuff from. Knitties animation will be proprietary animation eventually. Again, if you missed that bit at the start of the stream, we finesse later, we fettle later. For now, it's about rapid iteration, so we're just using mocap stuff. So if I press play on this, oof, just minimize my window by accident, didn't I? There we go. Press play on this. Okay, so it looks like I've shortened down the animation already. So actually, the animation that I need to be working on is Golf Drive. Which one is this one? Setup? Golf Drive Setup. That looks like it. So the Knitties setting themselves up and, oh yeah, this is the one that I need to edit, isn't it? Okay. So this is the one that I need to shorten. It's currently, the animation runs from frame 114 to 354. So that is approximately, well, we're probably running at 25 frames per second in terms of the actual like animated frame rate. So that's, you know, quite a few seconds, right? So we can shorten this, but it means that we might have to forego. If you look where the animation starts, then it starts to put the club down. But what I could do is I could try and shorten it to maybe here, and then cut a bit off the end and see where we're at. It's just it takes a bit of a long time, doesn't it, for it to sort of play back that animation. So let's edit this animation. So I'm just going to pull this over here. I quite like the looking up from the T bit. And I'll shorten it to about here. And so I'm just defining the in and out points of the motion capture data that I want to use. And I'm going to press apply. And by the way, the way I had it before, you see under these different settings here, we've got this little red indicator, this little traffic light system, which shows loop match. What that means is if I were to loop the animation, would it match? And red is like, no, the start position of this animation is completely different to the end position of the animation. It doesn't match. Yellow is like, you might get away with it. And green is basically, we think you can get away with it. And we think that Unity can handle that. And you see there, when I'm dragging this back and forth, you get this kind of graph of the data, and everything that's in, if I go green to green, it reckons it can match it. So that's good if it's green, but this isn't an animation that we're looping anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that back to there. Okay, and we're just green throughout, but we're not looping this animation. It doesn't actually matter, but that's what those green lights mean. Okay, so I have adjusted that animation, or the import from the motion capture. Let's save our scene and hit play, and we'll see where we're up to. Okay, so it's loading that S1, so people who have like arrived a little bit later, this is currently using some data from a wallet to load in S1s that are in that wallet, and we can scroll through a random set of 10 of those S1s. Oh, matchy. So when this spawns, like later on, once I've done the shorts, the S1 shorts, it will look something like this. All right, so the shorts will be in a slightly different tone to the other colours. But yeah, this is what an S1 forest matching might look like. Okay. Let's see what our golf animation looks like now. So it should be a little bit less, take a little bit less time. Yeah, works pretty well actually. Yeah, not bad. That, like, getting rid of that start point doesn't really have much of an impact. Now what I'm not doing here is I'm not adding, I was going to use a rigid body on the end of the golf club, so the actual swing was it was a physical swing, like the head connecting with the golf ball would propel the golf ball. However, when I looked at how golf systems work in games, that's not how they work. So I just thought that would be taking it a bit too far, because that would mean that potentially players, through no fault of their own, just because they're using an iPad or something, could potentially miss cue. What is, I don't know what the term is. Someone from Chasing Pars, Dean, needs to help me out here. I can't remember what it's called, but like if you hit the ball, if you're Adam Dean and you hit the sign, right, the welcome to the golf course sign, right, if you manage to, you know, what's it called, like if you pull it or whatever happens when you hit the ball badly, that could happen quite easily if I was using that method. So what I'm using instead is a standard way of playing a golf game, which is whereby there is an assumption that, in the basic sense, you will strike the ball cleanly on most occasions, and that's sort of automated. So yeah, I think we'll probably put a homage to that CNFTCon event within this alpha potentially. Like, can you hit the sign? It's like impossible to hit the sign unless you're really bad at something. So yeah, we might do that. So yeah, but it is physically propelled. Slice or pull. Okay, thanks. It is physically propelled, but it's not propelled by the force coming off of the swing at the moment, and it won't be. What it's going to be is it will be like the longer you hold down the action button, the further back the swing goes, kind of thing. Yeah, and that'll be basically how it works. And then how high it goes, like the forces that are applied upwards and horizontally, will depend on how long you hold down the action button. There's going to be no other forces applied. I mean, I suppose we could actually have fans, maybe. We could have a desk fan, right? That would be really interesting. You could have a desk fan blowing the golf balls around. But then this is just one mini game, right? This is just one mini game, but it's a great chance for us to sort of play around with these kinds of systems. Let's customize our S1. Now, obviously, like this is only picking items from the S2 pool. So everything, when I press random, all of those standard S2 items are going to disappear apart from the yarn, right? Because there's no S1 items in the S2 randomization pool. So yeah, we select our Knitty, and currently I do next or previous. And what I'm thinking I might do is on the alpha, when you run onto the cutting mat and hold down the context sensitive action button, instead of doing golf, like at the moment it only does golf, but what it will do is it will load up the Knitty select screen, and you use your shoulder buttons to progress left and right in the context sensitive menus, like selecting your putter, for example. But in this case, you'll click on right and it will go to the next Knitty. And I'd really like to get to the point where the Knitties just walk off the screen and the next one walks on, right? Something like that. But that's finesse. That stuff is for finesse. That comes later. But yeah, we select our Knitty and then we can hit random, and that's going to completely change our Knitty. So this is crazy, right? So you've got your S1 Knitty, and then if you've got a few S2s, you can just completely change the look of your Knitty. Meepa collab, Aeon there. So Aeonium Sky and Meepa, and that is a pseudo bag there. And those shoes are the Andrew Maxi Converse. Pretty cool. Yeah, I think I posted a picture the other day when there was was there 3 collabs on at once? I think there was 3 collabs on at once. Isn't that crazy? Like, I don't know, is there any other project that's done that? Yeah, I don't think there are. I think there's there's people who have never collaborated with each other, who in the world of Knitties, you as the Knitty owner, the curator of your Knitty avatar, can have stuff from all these different people on it, which I think is amazing. Let's actually set one up, shall we? So that's Helix. So you've got Aeon, you've got with spaces, you've got Tyler with spaces, and you've got Meepa on the same Knitty. Isn't that cool? I think that's really awesome. I mean, and that's really what we really wanted to achieve, like way back when we started, when we pivoted from, what do we want to do next after we did S1, and we were just like, oh, we'd like to achieve something like this, and we've kind of got there, or we're getting there, This is really cool. My frame rate has dropped, by the way, because I've actually got a whole other instance of this game running in the other window on my other screen. It's like running in the editor, so that's why the frame rate's dropped off. If I just switch that over, you get a boost to the frame rate. Look. Yeah, so that's all pretty cool. I mean, this is working quite nicely. Let's check chat. So again, any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll talk about them. There isn't much from that I can get done on the stream today, and we kind of started late, so I'm sorry about that. But what I really need to do is work through my punch list of assets, and specifically what I need to do is get more of these hoodies down and finished. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just boot up Painter and we'll load up some hoodies, and maybe we can get a few more hoodies in there. Wolves of Rome collab. Yeah, I think so. Collabs at the moment, we're open to doing collabs totally, and there's a degree of flexibility with how we would run them. Essentially, the easiest way to do a collab would be to do like a clothing set, right? We're not going to be doing any character knitties for some time. We're going to be focusing on clothing sets for people to customize their S1s. So the easiest way to do a collab with us would be to design a hoodie, a hat, or like an item, an accessory type thing, a pair of shoes, that type of stuff. We can totally do that. Well, the Knitties can do anything really, so that it's great they hit a golf ball, and it's really great that we've sort of started to mess about that system, and hopefully at the end of this weekend I'm going to refine it so that I think I mentioned it earlier, but for those of you who are kind of a bit late to the stream, the way this is going to work, and this is just the mini golf, right? And we will focus probably on the mini golf game to get our multiplayer system operational, which will take some time. Yeah, that's a big process. Creating everything like networkable rigid bodies and all this kind of stuff. It's complicated stuff, and it takes a lot of experimentation. And WebGL does not help. Delivery on WebGL is a pain, and so we've given ourselves we've increased our complexity by 10 times by doing delivery in WebGL. But whilst we are focusing on mini golf for this particular functionality in terms of proof of concept or minimum viable product, the goal is that this will extend, the same structure will extend to other mini games potentially as well in the future. That's another thing I've got to fix, look. Right, so we've got to fix this. But essentially, that's really easy to fix. It's basically like the control system needs to be hooked up to the animation system. Anyway, ice skating. But the way that this is going to work is, you go up to your ball. So you approach your ball, and once you're within a certain distance of any interactive object, you hold down the context action modifier or button. That is so for example, you hold down your left trigger, if you're playing first person shooter, it's your aim button, right? So you hold down your aim button and it will lock onto the ball, and it might just snap the Knitty into position. Yeah, like when you try and open a door in a game, in third person game, you get to a certain distance to the door, you press open, and the character sort of slides in to the door so that the hand matches the door handle, right? We need to do that work. And once we're snapped on, then we can rotate around the ball to aim it. And then once we're happy with that, we can hold down the action button to swing the club. And basically that's how this is going to work. And we'll do the same with other. It'll be the same sort of system for other things as well. Because most of these kind of games, like these mini games, they require some kind of aiming, right? What would be really cool, I think, would be if we had like a those bow and arrows with like the suction cups on them, and if we could do like a bow and arrow type game, would be really crazy. I'd love to do that, but it fixes you in position when you're aiming your arrow. That would be really awesome. That'd be really awesome. What controller am I using? This is a Xbox One controller, but this all like the way that the Unity input system works is any game controller that has a similar layout, which most game controllers and modern game controllers have this layout, it will automatically assign everything in WebGL for you. I haven't tested yet, and I do need to test it, whether that applies also to controllers for iPads. I'm quite reluctant to build out a touch control system, to be honest, because I think that a touch control system with Knitties is I don't think it's going to work for most of the gameplay scenarios that we envisage. So I think that if you're using an iPad, you kind of want like an Apple, what are they called? Like the Apple authorized controllers. I can't remember. You'd need one of those Apple compatible device, ACDs. I've got no idea. But there's a specific designation of the ones that work with iPads, and those will come across in exactly the same way as another controller. And Unity just automatically knows what that is. Yeah, this works on the Mac. Like, it's literally just Bluetooth. It's just Bluetooth, so you just connect it with Bluetooth. It works with the PlayStation controllers. It'll work with the Series X controllers. Yeah, you just connect them up, and I'll try and switch my monitors again. We'll see if I can switch them. Display 1, right. See, like it's not actually showing the full, oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm just messing about with the screen a little bit. Oh, so that's what I need to do. I need to like resize it to fit within the box that I've got available. Okay. That's a bit of a pain, isn't it? It's such a big screen as well that I need to... There we go. Okay. So if I go onto my Bluetooth up here, you see it's got my Xbox wireless controller up there. And there's no drivers. You used to have to get a separate set of drivers. There's like this third-party thing you had to download. This just hooks up right away now with the newest operating system. Yeah. Right, I better stop this playing. It's not taxing my resources. Let's get rid of that one. Get rid of my collateral. Get rid of that. Okay, so hoodies. What hoodies do I still need to do? I'm not entirely sure. Now this looks like this is the incorrect hoodie. Yeah, I optimized the hoodie a little while back, and then I've decided to go back on that and go back to the original one because it just worked so much better. Like the UV layout worked better for collaboration. For people like who don't know how to do 3D modeling and texturing, this layout works out so much better for them in Photoshop. And there's a bit of room here for me to put some other stuff in. So there's some color work that I need to do, but essentially, like, these hoodies are seen from like maximum this sort of distance. Like that's how big they are on the screen. That's like the biggest they'll ever be on the screen probably. So anything closer than that is kind of irrelevant. So I need to get the texture of a hoodie kind of visible from this distance, you know, the roughness, the lack of smoothness on a hoodie. So that's kind of what I'm trying to go for here. And hopefully it comes across as something slightly fleecy, slightly jersey-like. But anyway, I've got all these layers on here. And so, for example, we've got the Aeon hoodie here, right? Ada Racers, which is, of course, ignore the logo that appears on that, which is, of course, now Beyond Rockets. That was the first collab, wasn't it? That was the first S2 collab. It's pretty cool. I've got a bunch of others here that are not in the S2 pool just yet. So there's the Black Label ones. I think these all need a little bit of tweaking. That one's a really nice one. I think that should be, this is the Patrick colour. I feel like that should be in the standard set. Likewise with the Jackson, the purple colour, right? There should be a purple in the standard Knitty set, but maybe we just need to do like a separate set of hoodies with these colours in. But yeah, that one's really bright. And I really love these bright coloured hoodies. They look pretty awesome. So is there any hoodie? Oh, there's a super knit hoodie, which is just really basic. It's just that. It's just a white or like a slightly off-white with a pink pocket. That's all it is. Very, very simple. But they were back then, weren't they? Generally, the knitties were quite simple back then. So obviously the hoodies are a little bit more complicated now because they've got the logo on in the middle on the chest, and then they've got the Knitties logo on the sleeve as well. And if we get Knitties done, if we get Knitty hoodies done in the future, we've obviously got the ones that you can buy right now from NFTL. I think there's the link for those somewhere. Let me just have a look. It'd be good if I post that in the chat, wouldn't it? They're not going to be there for much longer. So you haven't got long. If you wanted to buy one, you have not got much longer to be able to get hold of one. So you can get these from the store using that link. And they're only 40 euros right now. Now, the shipping is expensive, like international shipping is expensive, as most of you know, but it's like, I think it's like 35 euros for shipping to America. Then in Europe, it's like 50 euros. It's a bit weird because like they are based in Europe. So, yeah, but I mean, if you compare this to the other ones, Sushi Bites jumper is 103 euros. Moonimals is 100 euros. So, and this is all embroidered, right? So the black one's got the Knitty Square logo on it, and the burgundy one's got the Lovecraft logo on it. But moving forward, we'll be doing, if we do merch, we'll be doing it ourselves, working with some local companies that I've worked with already to do our beanies. And basically all of the clothing items that are in Knitties Nook that are plain, like not patterned, they will all like basically look like the real ones. Like it'll use the same patches, the patches will be in the same locations, all that kind of stuff. So that's all going to be the same, it's all going to be joined up essentially, which is kind of cool, I think. Right, oh, I've just made the texture disappear. Okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of, I think a lot of people are interested in the beanies. So we'll have to see, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, you know. So we've been talking about potentially doing a Knitty fan package, and in that package you might get your beanie, you might get like some pins, you know, some enamel pins and a few other little bits. And obviously we've got the trading decks. We're not going to be sending any more decks out unless you're eligible to collect a deck, then we'll be sending those out. at some point. They're actually in a box behind me. I need to send them to Potato, but the Royal Mail strikes have been on days when the only days I can send them are the days when Royal Mail have been on strike. Apart from today, but we had family visiting, so couldn't do it. But I basically need to get that sent down, and then Chris is going to contact you for if you're eligible for a deck. But we've got all the loose cards as well. So in the fan pack, we'll be including loose cards potentially and things like that as well, and maybe some little prints, that type of thing. And it'll be possibly what we call phygital, right? So physical and digital package. So maybe it'll be linked to an NFT. So you buy the fan NFT, fan package NFT, and then we'll send some stuff out to you. We'll see how we want to do that in the future. So are there any hoodies that I need to do for S1? There are some hoodies I need to do. They're all the ones, but I also need to redo the colours. So I said earlier that some of the colours are not set up correctly yet because they're using the older hoodie model. So I need to transfer those. I need to make a note of all of those ones. But are there any patterns that I could do whilst we are here? I'm trying to think which patterns are currently missing from the set of S2s. What I need to do is get Adam to do me a punch list of all of the hoodies that we've got. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Unity. And I'm going to leave it on this screen. Let's go into the scene. No, I do need to hide this on the other screen, I'm afraid. Sorry, proprietary secret keeping. And I need to just have a quick look at my hoodie list. Okay, Leopard, Zebra, Aeon, Udon, Ada Racers, Nebula. Is there any that any Knitties fans know and not there? And then I can try and get that sorted. Oh, the Switch hoodies. We've got Switch Lovecraft. Okay, yeah, I could get another Switch hoodie in there, couldn't I? Now, is that... Oh, there's one. There it is. Crunch. Okay, let's get that quickly exported. So there is the Crunch hoodie, which is like this. And this kind of related to the hacking mint, right? The GLTF hacking mint that we did, which was really, really cool. Like really, I thought it was really innovative, and the whole custom mint system. Like if you weren't around for that, then you totally need to check that out. Potato did a really great video on it, and I think it's one of the best. I'm biased, right? But I think it's one of the best things I've seen on Cardano NFT, like in terms of interactive minting so far. It was amazing. Like this community problem-solving event, it was so cool. And then we built out this custom minting system, and then the people who minted, they got so there was an opportunity to solve a problem, and then out of that problem you were able to mint a custom blue label Knitty, and it was the first time we've done something like that. And I think it's like one of the most underrated things that's happened in the ecosystem, to be honest. I thought it was really, really innovative. And I know that a lot of other people do too. But yeah, check that out if you're not familiar with it. But Crunch, Captain Crunch was the answer to our puzzle that we put in, that we ran. But this Crunch is actually also a reference to a board game, like a fantasy, like high fantasy, I think it would fall under. Like I'm not sure, but elves and orcs and humans playing football against each other. There's this board game, an old board game called Crunch, and this was a reference to that, and in particular, one of the most popular teams in that board game from like the early 80s was a team called the Reichland Reavers, and their colour scheme at the time was blue and yellow. So that's what this hoodie is all about. Meta within meta. Okay, let's get this exported. Export textures, and we want to drop this into our high res. We want to create a new folder called Crunch, and let's check that this is all going to come through okay. Yeah, cool. Now let's jump into Unity, and I think again I might have to do this off screen depending on if there are any secrets visible. I think we might be able to set it up. I think we'll be okay. So, oh no, I can't. I can't show it to you. But what I can do is I can kind of drag it into the screen. So let's just pull a hoodie into the screen, and I'll just drag it into that screen so you can see what's going on. So we're going to go into clothing and high resolution hoodie, and let's just start off with a Mark III. So I'm just going to drag this out here, and I will actually, let's just delete that. So let's just make my Crunch hoodie. There we go. Right, so you can kind of see what's going on here. It's going to be a little bit small, sorry. We'll just go like this. And what I need to do is I need to build out a material now for this. So I'm going to build out so duplicate a material. I'm going to call it Crunch, like so. And then I'm going to apply that to my hoodie. This is not the textures, obviously, for the Crunch hoodie. But what we're going to do now is going to replace those textures on that Crunch material with these ones. And now I'm going to add it to the pool of hoodies, and then we're going to take a look at what it looks like in the game. So my clothing assets, and add a new asset. This is going to be called Crunch hoodie, and it is a torso item. And the object is, so again, I apologise, this is all on a different screen, but just being careful about what I show you. And then this is located on torso locator, and we want it to be available. Okay, cool, right, so let's see what happens. Okay, so we can hit random until it hopefully appears, or we can pick it from the hoodie list. Let's see if it randomly appears. There's so many for it to choose from that it's quite, we're seeing some repeated quite a lot. Okay, I would have expected it to come up by now. So Oh, hang on a second. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm on the wrong screen here, aren't I? Whoopsie. I might have shown you something. I don't think I showed you anything mission critical. I've lost my OBS now as well. There we go. Sorry, I just need to move you over to the other screen. Ooh. This is always so much more complicated. I'm so rubbish at this sort of stuff. There we go. Okay, cool. I think you're good there. I don't know, are you seeing like a weird double layout? Okay, hopefully that's working. Yep, I hope that's working. Anyway, it wasn't appearing like, basically, essentially what just happened there is I loaded it in and it wasn't in the pool of hoodies to choose from, so I just need to check something. Okay. I think we should be good to go. So I'm going to hit play again and hopefully you'll see the knitty spawn this time. Yeah, so you can see the knitty there. Let's get around. Let's see if it's in my list of hoodies. The crunch is there. Okay. So what I've done here is I haven't applied the correct material or something. So let me just do that now. For some reason it was coming through as a Mark III. Oh, there we go. It just came up, didn't it? But I got rid of it. So the crunch hoodie will only come up if you own like a switch, the switch with this particular hoodie variant on it. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Got another hoodie in the hoodie pool, which is quite cool. Questions? Yeah, there's so much lag on this stream, right? Because I don't know how to change it. I'll have to fix it because I'm just seeing Bishop posting about seeing double. So, like literally, that was about 3 minutes ago. I need to look at the latency of the stream. Okay, so yeah, the hack was really awesome. Bishop's posting about the hack, stressing him out. GG, or is it Gigi? GG, love the process project, very humble. Yeah, I think we're probably a bit like too quiet a lot of the time. Like we've developed some really awesome tools that are being used on a variety of other projects, by the way. Numerous other projects that have used our tooling. Perhaps we don't sell ourselves. We're not great at selling ourselves, I think. Are there any different locations aside from? Oh yeah, so this is basically, this is the testing. This is the alpha location. This is just where we're testing our mechanics out. So if you imagine, I guess with Nook, Knitty Nook, our game world, the idea is there are lots of different nooks, right, or areas, and these areas take place within the location where the knitties exist, which is within a household, right? And so, for example, there will be, I would describe it as a theme park within a house, and there'll be different themed areas, right? So we talk about Pirate Cove or Skull Cove, where there's going to be a pirate area. right? And there are a couple of other like themed areas that will be, that I don't know if we really have confirmed them yet, but certainly Skull Cove, Pirate Cove is going to be one of those. And some of the areas will be procedurally generated, or they will have procedural elements within them. So, you might be able to go to a particular location, but every time you visited it, it will be slightly different. So that's what we're kind of working on down the road. At this stage in the alpha, which is version 0.1, which, to be honest, it's probably more like, it should probably be more like 0.06, I think. But I think having the 3-digit number was a bit scary for some people, so we moved it up one. So I guess we'll have like alpha version 0.1a, 0.1b, that kind of thing. This area, the desktop, it's heavily inspired by Smash on the N64, and also inspired quite significantly by some of the stop motion work that was done on one of our main influences, which is Yoshi's Crafted World. This area is a testing area for us. It's an area where we have got a little bit of everything. Sometimes we call it a vertical slice, or minimum viable product is kind of a popular term right now in the crypto space, because all these people who weren't developers, who are learning to be developers, are learning the terminology of development. But really, like, what we're doing here isn't an MVP, minimum viable product. What we're doing here is a vertical slice. It's a gaming specific term. And in this environment, there'll be a little bit of everything. And it allows us to test things in a very small area before we expand them out into a larger area. So the idea is this crafting desk is, it's kind of, there are parallels to what we're actually doing here in terms of building the game as well as what's on the crafting desk, but sort of fourth wall breaking type meta, I suppose. But players can say to us here, oh, there was a problem when I jumped on top of the drawers. And I can go, well, and I said this earlier on the stream, the drawers have been specifically constructed for us to identify an issue that I'm aware can be a problem with small scale physics systems, which is what we've got here. And I talked about it earlier on stream, so I'm not going to go over it again. But if you've got a problem jumping on the boxes, I pretty much know exactly what we need to be looking at. And that's why they're there. All right, they're there to kind of like be part of this story world, but they're also there for us to test stuff. Everything here is designed for us to test stuff and to try and cause glitches to happen, like this glitch here, right? And then I can go, right, so that's a problem with cylindrical colliders and the double rigid body system that we've got on the Knitties. So how am I going to solve that? If the world was bigger in the alpha, it would take a lot longer to build it before we can get to the point where we can test it. So that's why we build small areas that contain a little bit of everything. The reason it's called a vertical slice is if you imagine like a cake with layers in it, right? If you want to get a bit of every layer, you can't slice it horizontally. Who slices a cake horizontally anyway? You can't slice it horizontally. You have to slice it normally, vertically, right? And then you pull this slice out and you've got a layer of cream, you've got a layer of jam, you've got your sponge, you've got your chocolate sponge, you've got whatever else, you've got your frosting and icing and that sort of stuff. You've got to cut it vertically. And then you get a bit of everything. And that's why it's called a vertical slice. And that's essentially what this environment is. There will be some very Nook-like parts of this environment. So you will, he says, optimistically, eventually in this series of alphas that we drop, this environment will become more filled out and you'll be able to go under the desk and all that kind of stuff. But we need to grow it slowly so that when in this early phase of alpha testing, there will be a ton of issues. All the things that you are going to identify as our alpha testing group, as Knitties owners, right? As Knitties holders, you're all part of the alpha testing group. All of these things that you're going to identify, we need to be able to also replicate those. Now, if you're like, let's say we had a much larger area and some of it was using some of our procedural tooling, then I think that if you were saying, oh yeah, there's an issue when this platform appears and I'm trying to hit a golf ball off of it, well, that becomes quite challenging for us to replicate. Whereas here, because there are so few items and the space is smaller, it's easier for us to replicate that problem and try and identify what the issue is. I don't anticipate many problems at all, to be honest with you. But that's why the environment's quite constrained at the moment. But yes, in answer to your question, there will be many more environments as we grow out the game. Our production schedule for the product is, I can't remember how long it, well, it goes on for as long as the project as a whole is popular. But the product of a game that we would say would be final is, I think, 2025 actually, on our game design, on our GDD game design document. So there's quite a long way to go, and we're certainly not at the stage where we are committing to developing all of the areas right now. A lot of projects they've got these really long product timelines. Yeah, projects are different to products, right? Projects can have indefinite time frames. Products are what you output, right? So their products have got these really long time frames. But as a project, they're committing to artwork really early, even though they're releasing stuff in 2 to 3 years' time. Now, I've worked in the games industry for, goodness, 2001 was when I worked on my first commercial projects. That's 21 years. And I know that the worst thing you can do is commit to your assets early, right? You need to be working in very constrained areas, using very basic assets, because the things that are going to change are going to be your art assets, and the way things look, and your locations and your layouts and all that kind of stuff. That will all change. So you don't want to be committing to it too early. Like, you should not be placing blades of grass. You shouldn't be placing that platform there, that platform there. You don't want to be doing that. What you want to be doing is finessing the mechanics, the coding, the tooling, and then you move on to that stuff later on. So there are certainly going to be loads of themed areas, and we'll be releasing them one after the other. So it'll be like almost episodic, I suppose. So probably the first thing that we do, I would like to do Skull Cove first, the pirate themed area first. I think that'll be really, really popular, and then we can start moving into other areas. And you can anticipate, well, I've spoken in the past, a haunted house area as well, which I'm really excited about. And these will be very much follow roguelike. They'll have roguelike elements in them, but they'll also follow Metroidvania style mechanics, which is something that we talked about before. Knitties Nook is about exploration. It's about exploring the world that's around us, and Metroidvanias are kind of all about that as well, about exploration. You collect one thing which gives you access to a new area, or you solve that problem and now you've got access to this area. So that's kind of how it's all going to work. So you might go to Pirate Cove and there's a particular locked door that you can't access, for example, and then when you go to the haunted house you find a treasure map, and then you use the treasure map to find a key which unlocks the door in Pirate Cove. So you have to like keep going back to these other locations, and that's really what I'm excited about. But that's the thing that you do after you've got your mechanics right. That was like a really long answer, wasn't it? Okay, I'm just going to quickly scan through things. Ekir and Rowdy talking about playing Smash. I don't know how many people on the YouTube stream actually know that we've got like a Minecraft server and stuff. So if you're Knitties holders and stuff, you should definitely go into Discord and ask about the Minecraft stuff. And it looks like we might be doing some Smash things. That'd be pretty cool. I'm thinking over the holiday I might stream a couple of games, and I'm really wanting to go back and revisit the original Tomb Raider, because it's one of these games that I don't think holds up very well because of the ship controls, SHIP control system, where it's like you're steering a ship, right? Forward is always forward no matter which direction Lara's facing in, right? So I'm really keen to sort of go back and revisit that and see, like when I was a teenager, I played this all the time, and I'm really keen to see if my memory holds up, because I still think that I would really enjoy playing this. So yeah, I'm hoping to jump back into that over the holiday, and it'd be really cool just to stream it to talk about it. Okay, did I get everyone's questions? Are there any special NFTs today? No. Well, I mean, there's all the NFTs that are out there that you can buy. How much is the Aeon hoodie now? How much is the Aeon hoodie? Like, if you wanted the Aeon hoodie, there's only 75 of them. I'm just going to go on JPEG and see how much they are. So, I mean, every knit is special, right? But we're not doing any. We might try and do some kind of drop for New Year, maybe. So that's like a potential special one coming out, but it'll be a like a time limited drop or something like that. We don't really know much about it yet, so just ignore everything that I just said. But let's have a look for Aeon. 550 ADA is. Let's move this onto here. This is one of the most sought after S2s. And Aeon 100 is 550, and then there's a huge jump to the next one. Look at this. Like, people just aren't selling them. 4,999 ADA for that one. I mean, can you imagine, right? Yeah. Knitties as a project, we have about 3,000 holders, probably a few more if you include all of our policies, right? But Knitties as a product needs to expand well beyond that audience, right? We need to have way more people coming in. Like some Knitties holders will be saying, oh no, only Knitties holders should be able to play the game. But as a Knitties holder, like if you're interested in selling some of your investment in the future, you want as many people playing Knitties as possible, right? If you had 100,000 people playing Knitties, then it would be insane, right? That's kind of what we want to aim for. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That's what every game wants to aim for, is like a really wide audience. But when you're in that, when that audience grows, like Knitties gets widespread adoption, all that kind of stuff. Loads of people playing it, and someone wants that Aeon hoodie, and there's only 75 of them. You know, it's interesting to think about, isn't it? And I think as a product, like I know there's loads of metaverse projects out there, and I'm not going to comment on any of those. My views are well known on many of those projects. But is there any game that looks like Knitties? Is there anything out there that looks like it right now? You know, it's certainly not in the world of NFTs, I don't think. You know, is there any other project out there with someone who's been working in games for 21 years? Is there anyone else? Is there any other project out there with like the dedication of, or you know, the commitment of one of the best developers on the blockchain, right? Adam Dean, working directly, developing tooling for us. There's not many. I don't think there's any projects that can really claim that. And I think that places us in a unique position, really. The fact that I'm not necessarily, like, a lot of projects are struggling at the moment because of the finances, and markets have gone downhill and all that kind of stuff, and it does impact us as well, but it's not as impactful for us because Adam would be developing anyway. Like, we've loved doing Knitties, and not gonna lie, like, paying for days work on Knitties is really, really important potentially. But right now, I am not drawing any income from the Knitties project at all. I'm just working because I love doing it. And hopefully in the future that will change. But right now, in the market downturn, it doesn't impact me because I'm not drawing an income anyway. So, And Bishop's saying 2025 will come around really, really quickly. Yeah, it will. It's going to come around super quick. It's only 2 years away, right? 2 years. And by then, well, in the new year, we'll have all of our wallet connections working. We'll have Knitty customization working. There'll be some work to do around data management in terms of saving Knitties and loading them up and all that kind of stuff that's a little bit more complicated on WebGL. And then we can just start building out locations and marketing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting, I think. And I just think, like, as a project, as a product, like the final product, it just looks so much different to other stuff that's out there, A lot of the NFT games have been 2D, pixel art type games, and there are lots of 3D games, I know. But there's nothing really that looks like this, And already, like, can you imagine? Just imagine the scenario, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just imagine we get to, I don't know, give us a few months, and we get to March, and we drop an 8-player collaborative demo where everyone can customize their own avatars and all that kind of stuff, and you're all interacting, jumping around, smashing people with mallets and whatever else that you do in Smash, playing mini golf together with your little Knitty characters. I mean, I just picture that in my mind, and I'm just like, okay, that's when Knitties will take off, like, as a project, I think, when we get to that point. So yeah. Anyway, I've been rambling on for ages now, so which normally means I've got nothing else to talk about. So we got one hoodie, and last time I think we got like 20 hoodies done in one session, but obviously we had quite a bit more to talk about in terms of the golfing mechanic, and there was a few new people on stream, so I just wanted to make sure that we answered questions and were just clear about things for them. So thank you everyone for coming today, and it's always a pleasure. We'll do this again next week, I hope we'll do it next week. And I think by next week I'll probably have the golf system working, like the aiming system and all that kind of stuff working. And we may also have, we'll definitely be closer to dropping the alphas to our booster group. We might have even dropped it by then. Who knows? We'll see. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming along, and I hope to see you again next time. Make sure you check out if you don't already go on Discord, then make sure you get onto the Discord, because there's it's a really nice community over on Discord if you're not already a part of it.